Hey, White Sox fans, welcome to Charlotte Knights Postgame Podcast #1. I'm Brett Ballantini, your host. It is a new era. Charlotte, a dominant 3-1 win today. Me and Darren Black were practically watching it together. The excitement, we were biting our nails. Yacksel Rios with the classic tidy 23 pitch save. And Darren, I think our right field, I'm sorry, AJ Pollock. I think our right field problem is solved. Orland Park's Mark Payton, three hits in the Charlotte win. Things have a tendency to just work themselves out. And on opening night, big bad Cade McClure, there you go. Here's your 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th starter. It's all coming together, Darren.
Yeah, I mean, you never know when the White Sox are going to need Yacksel Rios and company.
Sounds like a t-shirt. Okay, listen, it's a gag. We've been gagging left and right. Oh, we really do gag in all these podcasts, but actually we've been trying to prank you all week. There actually wasn't a merger to announce in yesterday's podcast. And no, we are not rebranding the South Side Sox on the Farm podcast as a Charlotte Knights postgame podcast. Although, hey, listen, it's nice to get a win under the belt because they only had like 10 last year. So 24 of them last year. SBNation, Darren, I want you to know they made a very specific accounting of how the podcast did, listen to every word of all of them. They sat back and realized, I think we're getting our money's worth, because really that's what it comes down to. I think we're getting our money's worth. So we're going to renew these guys for a second season. Congratulations. This is podcast 25. Good to be back with you again. Hey, let's do another season.
Yeah, we're almost at a full roster of podcasts. I guess 5 more after this.
And on top of that, Darren, listen, can you believe this? I mean, it's so strange. I mean, I shouldn't think this is funny because, we started working together when you're in junior high. This is 5 years of doing some writing together. Hey, you're an original, man.
Yeah, and if we're keeping it just minor league system, it has really gone downhill.
So now you got to stick around for at least the 5 years it's going to take to drag it back up. So good. Basically, hey, breaking news, everyone. It's now the Darren Black podcast. Yeah. We have inked him for another 5 years. He's got to be back to see this become a legitimate system. And I'm afraid he'll die waiting for that. But hey, we got him at least for 5 more years. Great news. But tone down to celebrating. We do have to run through the affiliates. Basically, Darren, this is our first podcast of this new season. It can't be as bad as last year, although who knows, the White Sox might be up for it. And we're going to do a little preview. We still don't know. Obviously, Charlotte played tonight. We know their roster. A few surprises there, guys who are on the Knights roster and who aren't. And we're going to do our best guesses. I think we have some pretty solid intel and guesswork to determine who is going to be populating the other 3 rosters. We're going to just run through each of the 4 teams and just talk through some highlights. Listen, we already pretty much talked Charlotte to death, but in spite, Darren, of the fact that there was a thrilling and dominant 3-1 win over Norfolk tonight to open things up behind big bad Cade McClure. My question to you to begin with Charlotte is, what's different this year with Charlotte? Or are we still seeing that sort of same collection of like 4A guys where it's this weird sort of like bus station type of vibe? It doesn't seem like the White Sox anytime soon are going to have like a great AAA team, if that's even the goal anymore.
Yeah, I mean, really any AAA team, there's going to be a lot of quad guys. But especially this year in the early going, since they have 28-man rosters in with the Major League Ball Club, you already have 3 extra guys, or 2 extra guys, I guess. There's now 26, but already up there. And we've like Tanner Banks, we know is going to be one of them, and he's pretty much the definition of a quad guy. 30 years old, he's going to get his first games out there. I don't know how many innings he's actually going to throw. We'll see kind of how long he lasts. He might even just be up there for the Tim Anderson suspension. We have no idea. He might just be there for 2 games. But the difference is their quad guys are actually guys that would have made the teams in previous years. Right. Romy Gonzalez is probably the best of the bunch that you can think of. And then we all know his story. He went from AA all the way to the majors, really crushed it once he got to AAA last year, but did pretty well in Birmingham as well. I think a lot of people would have preferred him over Leary, but he's just added depth, and it's pretty good at this point because he can actually play everywhere. Not that he is put in spots, but he can actually play everywhere.
Yeah, Darren, hold on. Let me just jump in here and defend the organization you love and would die for. What in the world would be the reasoning to have? Okay, obviously they love Leary. He's like the longest tenured guy. Okay, and it's cool. He's back. It's fine. Not, it doesn't break the bank. But why in the world would Romy Gonzalez not be your like utility guy versus say a Danny Mendick? What is the logic there? I mean, it was great that he bats cleanup now in the lineup for Charlotte, but is there some thinking there that I'm missing?
I mean, the only thinking that comes to my mind is that Romy is still an actual. He's an older prospect, but he still is an actual prospect. So they're probably just looking to him to just get more at bats, to prove that what happened last year was not a fluke. Get him regular at bats every day. Maybe if they want to just kind of have him play more in right field to see what he has in right field for unknown reasons.
Why not?
But just kind of see what he has, give him like a steady, thorough development. And it seems like they're doing the same thing with Jake Berger instead of kind of having them hang out on the bench last year or this year. They did that with Zach Collins last year, and obviously that didn't work out for him. I mean, he's not even on the team anymore. Yeah. So just kind of a different approach with other options that they can actually have to replace him. Like Danny Mendick, he's pretty fine defensively, obviously not a great bat, but if you need him to plug and play somewhere, he'll do that. And then you have better versions of Romy Gonzalez right now in Leary Garcia and Josh Harrison anyway. So I don't find it terrible. He's probably better than, definitely better than the Danny Mendick. Our jury's out if he's better than Leary or Josh Harrison, but just gotta wait and see with him. But he's an actual prospect, so might as well get him the at-bats that he needs to develop.
All right, you made a legit argument. I just want the White Sox to know I do not like it. I'm not in favor. Yeah. I'm not happy with it. Tell me this, Darren. The Tanner Banks move, as you said, could be just a very brief, but it might not be. Here's the thing, and we're just talking about the system, but especially when you talk about Charlotte, you have to connect to the actual White Sox team. And when it comes to the rotation, well, there's a lot to talk about because clearly there's going to be a need in Charlotte bullpen as well, of course, but the rotation, there is going to be probably more than just those spot starts. And on top of it, the White Sox have a rotation now. Granted, we knew going in, guys weren't going to be throwing complete games because we already had this truncated spring training, but the White Sox are taking that to extreme. It doesn't seem like anybody can reliably get maybe even to 6 innings. And that's maybe nobody, maybe Cesar Giolito, maybe. And you cannot blow out your bullpen in the first 2 weeks of the season. So clearly there's going to be some mop guys when Michael Kopech isn't even confident he's going to be able to get to 5. You really almost have to have a Tanner Banks type of man. I know there's already Ronaldo Lopez and Vince Velasquez. It seems like there's an interesting list of guys who are like, what are they? But I mean, the White Sox are really maybe more than maybe a couple other teams, as good as the rotation is or can be, are really going to have just like all hands on deck. It's almost like there's almost like these are variations on bullpen games here to begin.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the Lance Lynn will at least be gone until mid-May, maybe later. We don't know. But it seems like 6 to 8 weeks is kind of where he's at. They can definitely rely on kind of, I guess you could say they have a 6-man-ish rotation right now, but Michael Kopech is more like an opener, like an elongated opener right now. But I mean, Matt Foster, when he was in the minors, he would go multiple innings all the time. So it's not like he's kind of like it's not like he's Craig Kimbrell coming in and he's just going to throw 1 inning and no more. He can go 2. Sometimes he would even push it to 3. It's gonna be kind of a rotating kind of event here with the bullpen, or I guess this kind of starting rotation to begin the year. You're gonna see probably Jimmy Lambert up. He is coming off an injury, so it's not like he's, fully ready. But you're probably going to see Cade McClure come on the 40-man at some point. They do have at least one 60-day IL guy, Yermin Mercedes, probably to work with that 40-man rotation, but that could go to Johnny Cueto, who's probably going to start in Charlotte maybe 2-3 times to see what he has. And then Jason Billaus is still there. I wouldn't really put much faith into him. He was in AA last year. He's in AAA right now, but didn't do so well in AA. But that's your depth, and you're probably going to see a lot of it. You saw a lot of it in the outfield last year. You're probably going to just see a lot of it, not just starting rotation, but also bullpen just to begin the month, at least. And we'll see when the rosters shorten in May. We'll see who's still there at the end of it. And then that depth will just kind of get bigger just because. But you're going to see a lot of names, and sometimes they're going to make you mad. But they're going to be there, and they're going to keep pitching because they need it.
Yes, those will be entirely different podcasts, maybe as soon as next week. Let me just jump in here and point out again, as you all know, Darren is our tireless minors writer. He's taken three nights of the minor league update, including as we speak now. He's probably typing. Darren tends to sometimes be in a time. He's always like watching a game when we're these podcasts, which is probably good. You probably need to limit. You need to filter your focus on me. That's probably recommended. I think it actually is what everybody talks about on staff when they're about to go on with me. Just sort of listen with one ear. But this time it's legit. I mean, he's like writing his minor league update as he's doing this podcast. The game just broke. So tireless, doing all 4 of our previews this week. So it's been a big week, busy week for him, and certainly appreciate that. The Charlotte Knights, which is already up, which is up yesterday, is linked in this podcast, as well as in this podcast post the Birmingham Barons. We're just doing one each day until opening day for the rest of the minors on Friday. So that is the commercial announcement. And before we leave Charlotte, this is a guy you did not address in your Charlotte preview, so I'm not trying to depant you here, but he had a big night tonight, and that is Carlos Pérez had a home run. He's a guy who seems to be a legit-ish defensive catcher, not exactly a guy necessarily who's going to impact the major league roster without injury, but refresh me on how you see his prospects, or maybe what growth he might still have, or is he going to pretty much peak around Knights level?
Yeah, well, in terms of his MLB prospects, it's going to, because obviously we don't know the 28-man roster for the White Sox yet. We're assuming, well, not assuming, Reese McGuire is definitely going to make the team. But we don't know what's going to happen with Sebi Zavala yet. If they do 3 catchers, which I think is totally in play, because Tony La Russa has talked about Yasmani Grandal playing DH on his off days, so might as well still have that extra catcher on the team. If Sebi Zavala is DFA'd, I'm assuming a team might pick him up. I don't know if that's going to happen. He doesn't have any options left, and he's really not that fantastic. So, but I mean, catchers are just so few and far between these days. Even bad ones. But he definitely, Carlos Pérez is definitely probably the fifth catcher right now. Just the guys that are ahead of him, besides Yasmani Grandal, are all kind of similar. They don't really have good bats. Reese McGuire is definitely a better fielder than him. Perez doesn't have as much experience as Sebi Zavala does. And Nick Chiaffiero, however you say his last name, he definitely he might actually have a worse bat than Carlos Pérez, but from all indications that he's pretty sure-handed and pretty good behind the plate. So I don't know if we'll ever see him in the majors this year. I think he could have been a Rule 5 candidate if that draft happened.
Oh yeah.
Because he still would have had those options there, but I don't think I see him in the majors this year for the White Sox, at least. Maybe if he actually does pretty well in Charlotte, they could try to flip him, since like backup catchers are like things that the White Sox now have a lot of.
Wow.
But we'll kind of he did get the start today, so he's at least showing that he's going to be the guy that'll probably get the most of the time behind the plate. But it's just, he doesn't have a lot of potential is what it comes down to. And that just mainly comes down to the bat and him not being as fantastic a fielder as Reese McGuire.
And, this is not news to you, Darren, as we prepare to leave Charlotte. I'm not just a big personality and pretty face host. I'm a smart guy too. Prior podcast wrote in the notes, the phonetic spelling, Nick Schufo. So we still don't really have the answer. We did get the answer in the pronunciation guide. It is Romy, not Rami, but we still do not know whether it's Balouse, Balouse, Biggie, below. We still don't really know that yet. So it'll be fun just to continue. Mr. and Mrs. Jason, Mr. and Mrs. B or Grandpa B, you're probably watching or listening. Hey, drop us a line. Let us know. I've actually reached out. I want to know if Romy Gonzalez if they use the accent on the name. Nobody answered me, but I reach out. I try to figure this stuff out. Anyway, okay, Darren, enough fun talking about the juggernaut that is the Charlotte Knights. And let's move to a team that really is, at least on paper, stacked. This, I guess, would be maybe going into this season, the most talent in the organization, or at least closest to the majors talent. Just give me a couple highlights of the guys there. You've obviously written about it in the preview, but this is a pretty, again, for another year, this is a pretty tasty roster in Birmingham, as indicated by you choosing their hat for this podcast.
Yeah, if you're looking for a team that's actually gonna show like good hitting talent, the Barons are what you're gonna want to look at the most. They're led by Jose Rodriguez. Everyone knows him now after his fantastic season last year that started in Kannapolis and then actually got him all the way up to Birmingham and a stint in the Arizona Fall League. But that season did not end as well as it started, but he still proved that he was a very good hitter. He's going to be a guy that's going to get a lot of bat to the ball, not really much power. He shows enough of it that he's the third best prospect with the White Sox. Not that that's saying much, but he is I'm not sure where he's really going to play yet with Birmingham because of the other guys. Gilbert Sanchez is also there, a guy that you could legitimately see with the White Sox this year. And Lenyon Sosa is also there. He's not a guy that you're going to see with the White Sox this year, Lenyon Sosa. But he's still a guy that's going to need the at-bats to show what he can be. I'm guessing Rodriguez is going to play short. But then after that, it's kind of weird. Is Lenyon or Gilbert's going to play second or third? I mean, all three of them can kind of move around if you want them to. But at this point in AA, you want to try to find where they're going to play once they start coming up. And since the White Sox second baseman is suspect for next year, and these guys are really on the team for next year, then whoever plays at second is probably going to be a guy that you're looking to be on the 2023 roster.
Before we go to the outfield, broadly, I mean, you just mentioned if you're looking for offense, if you're looking for firepower, you're looking for Birmingham. Now, we never said that before. Last year, Mike went bananas. Gilbert Sanchez actually wasn't hitting until he got to Birmingham, and then he actually found his bat, and now suddenly he's like maybe a legit prospect. Or I mean, always was, but I mean maybe a legit prospect. And of course, Romy Gonzalez as well. So something different in the water, a humidor there. What is going on in Birmingham? Regions Field is like a happy place to hit now.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, if it is a humidor, that would actually make sense. But it was just really strange because the pitchers were the one that actually didn't do well. The easiest explanation might be that the pitchers didn't pitch in 2020, so the batters were just ahead. That might just be the easiest explanation. But whatever happens, I mean, Miker is now in play for MLB time wherever. And then Romy Gonzalez shot up all the way to the majors. So, I mean, whatever worked there was awesome. So
maybe it's just the training table stuff. The PB&J sandwiches are just especially delicious and hearty there. Let's go to the outfield to talk about a guy who really actually showed out pretty well in spring training. And it's got people, even in our internal predictions, we're getting people saying the best rookie on the White Sox this year is going to be Yoelqui Cespedes. I'm not sure how that happens, but that would be very exciting. No. I'm guessing he doesn't move up to Charlotte before we have sort of a cool Cuban combination where Oscar Colas maybe moves up from Winston-Salem and you get two Cuban players in the same outfield. But Yoelqui is ahead now, obviously been in the organization for a year. Ran out of gas last year, and something you have in your preview about him really says that it's imperative for him to have built up over the off season so that his strength holds up, so that he can finish, if not strong, doesn't just fall off the table. Because who knows, he might be actually in play for maybe some South Side time by the end of this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he. Out of anybody that's in Birmingham, now that we know that the White Sox will actually take a guy in Birmingham and put him in the major league roster, if they prove it after last year's Romy Gonzalez experience, Yoelqui is probably third on that list of guys that you could reasonably expect to make it to Chicago. But he might have the most potential out of all those three. He just really has to prove that last season, especially the end of last season, was just because he hadn't really played baseball much in a few years. I think from his time in Cuba, the last time he played that many games was 2017, 2018 season. And I mean, that's a long time ago, especially for a guy to just be off playing baseball like that. Yeah. You got to kind of relearn it. That's why Jake Berger's season last year was so amazing, because he really relearned how to play baseball pretty quickly. But what Yoelqui really just needs to cut down on strikeouts the most. They were way too high, and it doesn't seem like he's going to be a guy that's going to walk often, or at least he's just like too excited to actually be playing baseball every day and was just swinging at everything. It just actually worked out for a majority of the season, swinging at everything. But he just needs to work on his plate approach, and if he does that well, then you'll see him in Chicago by far.
Well, remember, Darren, he started out, played his first 10 or 20 games just as designated hitter. You might have just taken that literally. He's there to hit. Yeah. He has to swing. Walking sort of doesn't count you for the designated hitter. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely proved that. It's just, he clearly got tired by the end of the year and into the Arizona Fall League. Yeah. Probably hindsight, he probably shouldn't have gone to Arizona, but you still wanted to get him. He needed the at-bats. He needed to learn how to hit better pitchers.
Yeah, you can tell me if I'm spinning through things too quickly with these guys, but I think the one pitcher we want to talk about in Birmingham is a guy who I think actually, I don't know his stat line, but he definitely got some time in spring training, and he seems to be the guy groomed as the reliever, and that's Caleb Freeman. You're thinking he's going to be in Birmingham and not Charlotte, and if that's true, is he a guy who has the potential to move up quick to Charlotte and maybe even see the South Side this year?
Yeah, he can definitely, if any position is going to get promoted early on, it's probably going to be a reliever, especially just, they just need them because or not the minor leaguers, they went into camp on time because they're not in the union, but the major leaguers were not ready. Yeah. And he is the best reliever in the system right now. I mean, they definitely have a glut of righties. If he was a lefty, I mean, he probably would have been in over Tanner Banks, something like that. Yeah. He can easily make it to the majors. I would, in terms of who I could see make it to the White Sox, to be Yolbert, then Caleb Freeman, and then Yoelqui Cespedes. It just kind of depends on how this goes. Freeman should be getting those save opportunities. He's not gonna, it's the minors, they don't always get every single save opportunity, but he should have the most. I don't think you're gonna see him pitching the 6th or 5th inning really ever in Birmingham, and when eventually he gets to Charlotte.
Now, I, as the host, am saying we are going to leave Alabama and head back to North Carolina. And as we do that, it takes a little bit of time. So we're going to take our break, and then we're going to talk Carolina, unless I've skipped somebody in Birmingham. And then Darren will pull me back and say, nope, sorry, we got to go back. I know you don't want to go back to Alabama, Brett, but you're going back. But hang with us. We've had a nice talk about the top 2 affiliates, and we're going to talk about A-ball coming up in the second half. Hang with us. Hey, White Sox fans. Boy, we've called this about 6 different things already. The good news is we have the breaking news at the top, not just the big news about the Charlotte Knights winning their first game of the season in just thrilling, dominant fashion. But the great news is, because Darren Black has indicated he is going to wait until the White Sox season system strengthens and becomes powerful and dominant. He's going to stick with South Side Sox till then. So I'm saying we've already inked him another 5 years, but frankly, I got to say, Darren, I think I may be long dead. I think you just signed a lifetime contract, but that's great news. And we'll have some, press release about it, touting it, mergers, contract extensions, et cetera. Well, yeah, we'll get all that maybe after opening day, but welcome, Darren. It's great to be back with you. This is our 5th year working together, 2nd year of doing a podcast. SBN renewed us for a 2nd season. Can you believe it? We're doing this again.
Yay.
I'm speechless too, no doubt about it. Okay. Providing I haven't pulled the bus out of Birmingham prematurely, we're moving to Winston-Salem, and we're going to start, of course, with the guy who people might scratch their head at the assignment to Winston-Salem, and that is Oscar Colas. He's a guy who's obviously, he's sort of what I would call, and probably a lot of other people call smarter than me, so almost like a veteran prospect. But is this if he is starting with the dash, is it a smart assignment, and how quickly will he move on from the dash, assuming he doesn't just, he doesn't drown there?
Yeah. I mean, I'm completely fine with it. Age probably says that he should be in Birmingham, but he didn't really play much baseball last year. Right. And like Yoelqui Cespedes, he also started with Winston-Salem. I don't have the amount of games that Yoelqui played with Winston-Salem, but I don't think it was more than a month. Because he had like a 120 WRC plus and then got promoted pretty quickly. I would assume he's going to take the same track. Mm-hmm. I think the dash placement is more that he's for sure not going to be in Chicago this year. At most, he's going to get to Charlotte. And even then, I don't even think he will. He'll probably, once he's promoted, just spend the rest of the time in Birmingham. But it sounds like he's going to be playing center field, which is great. Make him play the harder outfield position, and then if you need to change that when he gets promoted, that's fine. Let Yoelqui take the center field innings in Birmingham, and then kind of see what Oscar Colas has. I mean, he's basically an unknown, kind of. You kind of got to prove it in against the best pitchers in the world for his age here first to see if the scouting reports that he's garnered are actually real. He's come over. He seems like he's got a good bat, decent power. He obviously used to be a pitcher over in Japan, so he's got a fantastic arm. I don't know if it was like the 80 grade Mike Rodolfo arm that he was getting before he started having his surgeries, but he's definitely probably going to end up in one of the corners, but again, make him play the harder outfield spot and make him prove that he shouldn't be there or should be there.
Yeah, to have right field arms sprinkled throughout your outfield, that's the way it's supposed to be done. Look, the White Sox might actually have a second guy to go with Luis Robert. Speaking of pronunciation guide, we still don't know how to pronounce his name. He just pronounced on the pronunciation guide like Luis Robert. Now, again, he's probably doing it the way he thinks we want to hear it. So we could say Robert. I really don't know what to do now, but nobody can really wag fingers because we don't even know what direction to wag the fingers is. It's supposed to be anyway, or, trill the R. Oh God, I'm so confused. And which podcast are we in? Okay, we are back in the minors, and we are at Winston-Salem. And the other specific hitter I want to ask about before maybe we talk a little pitchers, or I'm going to just throw it to you because I don't know what to make of it, is Brian Ramos, a guy who you I think said early on last season really was almost getting unfairly overlooked because Jose Rodriguez was just blown up a little bit more. He played shortstop. I don't know what all the ins and outs were, but I mean, a guy who pretty much is like 1A to him as a great hitting prospect, and he showed nothing last year, just like Rodriguez, of really slowing down or any hitch in what seems like really a pretty stellar trajectory. Do you expect him to just get to Winston-Salem and sort of just keep on mashing? And is he going to be playing second or third?
He should start out playing third. Again, I am pro put the guys at a more difficult position, even if you don't really think that they belong there. Like Jose Rodriguez was playing shortstop. He was not a very good shortstop, but you should still have him over there.
Challenge him, sure.
To challenge them, make them get better at a spot, and then maybe it'll work out. So I would hope that he's at third. But I know eventually, once we get to the Kannapolis guys, like Wes Kath or Colson Montgomery might come up and take that spot. Who knows? But for Brian Ramos, he had the same exact WRC plus as Jose Rodriguez in Kannapolis. And he was a full calendar year younger. He was in his age 19. Jose Rodriguez was age 20. So, I mean, you could say it's more, he had technically a better season, but obviously Rodriguez did really well after he was promoted. With the difference with Ramos is that he will actually walk. He had a pretty healthy 10% walk rate, but with that, he also strikes out a bit more. He does have more pop, which kind of mitigates that increase in strikeouts. I mean, it was only 22%. I say only just because that's for a guy with more pop, you expect it to be higher. But if that kind of baseline stays there, 10% walk rate, 22% K rate just stays there with the dash, he's going to have a good year. He's just a really good hitter.
Is he a guy, I know you want to look at everybody individually. You don't want to say, well, because this domino falls and this other thing happens, but he's maybe even surprisingly didn't even get a courtesy promotion to Winston-Salem at the end of last year. If Birmingham sees a promotion of, as you're saying, with maybe a trajectory to the south side of Yolbert Sanchez in particular, or maybe Jose Rodriguez, is he a guy who then, if he basically, let's just assume, no hitch in his game, he continues mashing, basically is showing he's a legit guy. Do you think he at any point in the season or even early could see Birmingham, or is that being too aggressive with a guy that you might realize you might have something really great?
Yeah, so in the assumption that when he's promoted, that means either Jose Rodriguez or a Lenyon Sosa or Yolbert Sanchez are in Charlotte. I think he would definitely be the first option to. I think really the only reason why he wasn't promoted last year was just because he was 19. Kind of keep him in the same spot. Yeah. Like, just remembering when I was 19, like, please keep me at the same spot. Don't give me too much.
Where do I get my food?
Yeah. Don't change my lifestyle too much, please. But now, I mean, to say that it's an age 20 season, but he actually has a full year of full season pro ball under his belt.
And so that's the big transition, right, Darren? I mean, you got a guy who's coming from outside the country, however much he's played even in Arizona, that first full season in this sort of like new country. That's a real big hump to get over.
Yep. And I mean, and he actually played a full season too. He wasn't really hurt during much of it. He got a ton of games in for a guy at that age in low A. But I could definitely see him getting another promotion if he has another successful season like he did last year and shows meaningful improvements, whether it's defensively at second or third, or if he kind of cuts down on those strikeouts a bit more and gets just more bats or balls in play in general. But there's definitely guys ahead of him in those same spots in Birmingham that deserve to be in Birmingham. And he probably shouldn't overtake them. If he does, then something terribly went wrong in Birmingham, somewhere in the middle infield and third base. But I mean, he came out of nowhere last year and he just kept chugging along. So hopefully he keeps doing it.
No offense to anybody on the world-beating, surely future AAA champion Charlotte Knights, but it seems like every single legitimate starter arm is playing in A-ball, starting in A-ball, including guys at Winston-Salem, who are you projecting a trio of, for better or worse, Drew Dahlquist, Matthew Thompson, Sean Burke. Is there one? I mean, Sean Burke has, hit the ground running. So, I mean, he just is sort of like, okay, let's just keep this thing rolling. But with Drew or Matthew, is there one guy who you look at as this being a more crucial year? Do they both really got to step it up equally? Are you higher on one or the other?
I think generally, I'll take the last question first, is I'm higher on Matthew Thompson just because he showed more strikeouts last year. He didn't walk as many people. I mean, his ERA was a full run higher still, but the peripherals were just a bit better. And in terms of who I expect to actually be better. Sean Burke came out just amazing, and I need to see Matthew Thompson and Drew Dahlquist actually prove that what happened last year was hey, I got drafted in 2019 and my development was really screwed up by a global pandemic. And I wasn't able to recover, unlike some of the older guys that had more pro pitching experience. So I want them to prove early on. And in terms of who I want to see it more, selfishly, as a person that wants to see the White Sox do well, they both need to do well, or they're not going to get anybody at the deadline.
Forget who they are. They could do it for the Pittsburgh Pirates. But I hear what you're saying. Sure, of course. There's nothing in the system to throw as a chip.
Yeah, and we'll get to Norge Vera later, but he's obviously hurt right now. So I'm not sure if a team would want to trade for him. But even then, it seems like that Fernando Tatis Jr. Trade that may or may not have happened, I don't know, has kind of made them stay away from trading those young international prospects. I really can't think of, they'll trade the bonus pool money, but I really can't think of many of those type of players that they've traded, especially as highly regarded as Norge Vera is. So just selfishly, I really hope they do well just because of that. If they prove that they deserve to be in Birmingham by June, then you're probably looking at a pretty good starter for one of them come the trade deadline. But we'll just kind of have to see. They start on Friday, I believe. And going forward, I'm not sure who the game one. I guess we don't even know who's on the roster technically yet.
That's true. It could all be going to Charlotte.
But we'll see. I expect Matthew Thompson to end up being the better pitcher by the end of the year. But if that's meaningful to another team, that remains to be seen.
That's Hugwatch. Darren Black speaking baseball as a business. That's our podcast here today. Welcome to it. You can't get attached to these guys because they could be flipped. We're in a contention window. I'm sorry, Matthew Thompson. Listen, Darren Black's still going to be writing about you because he's here forever now. We basically secured him forever. It's great news, South Side Sox. I might not be here to ever see Matthew Thompson make the majors, but absolutely a point you make. You wonder how many teams came hard after Benjamin Bailey after that one incredible season, and how many times maybe they were thwarted by Rick Hahn, and then Rick Hahn says, boy, I wish maybe I hadn't done that, but hey, who knows? That's another guy we'll talk about at some point. We're not going to talk about him in this podcast. Let's move on to our final affiliate. These minor league updates are so easy these days. Just 4 games, 4 teams to track. Geez, Darren, you got it so easy. Let's go to Kannapolis, which was a historically awful team. I think by the end of the season, they might not have even been the worst, but they were, I don't know. They were all so bad that I don't even remember who the worst was, but boy, Kannapolis had a really weird debut season. They didn't change the nickname. They're sticking with Cannonballers. So they don't think it was the nickname. Well, let's start with Varus because you reminded me actually that he was hurt and he basically has been inactive, and he was hurt or tired, which is why in the DSL, even last year, he didn't start until a certain time as well. Is this a concern, or are we just super panicked because this is the guy who's like, holy cow, 0 earned runs, we got to protect him?
No, I wouldn't be panicked about he's a young heralded prospect. They just want to be careful at this point. And again, we're still in the aftermath of kind of, hey, no one pitched in 2020, especially since we're tracking that injury into last season. They're just being careful, I think. He was already going to be on an innings limit. So he wasn't going to fly out the system anyway. He probably could have gotten to the day. But now it's looking like he's probably going to stick with Kannapolis, get his, 3-4 innings to start once he's back, and then just kind of see where he ends up. He did well in the DSL, but we know the DSL is not anything to sneeze at, but it's definitely not at the competition that he's going to see when he's pitching in Kannapolis. Just kind of hope that he gets back okay. I think it's a lat injury. And then hope the other pitchers can actually be good this year, so they aren't in the toilet.
Oh, God, well, I mean, here, listen, there are some reinforcements, and highlighted among those is a guy who you might even like. Geez, I'm bringing his name up again. You might even liken to a Benjamin Bailey, because he had such a monster year in Arizona. Wilfred Varus is a guy who seems like, again, just sort of built to mash. Now, this is an even smaller sample size than a guy like Brian Ramos, but he's a guy that, could either be part of whatever the wave is going to be, the second wave of playoff contention, or whatever it be, or a legitimate chip. I know that the arms are always, come with even more value if they're legit, but I mean, obviously a big bat would have some pretty decent value as soon as this trade deadline. So, okay, hug watch Darren Black. Is this a guy that you can consider sort of a lock to continue mashing, or we just haven't seen enough from him? Is he the guy who really jumps out as the biggest offensive threat, maybe even more so than Montgomery Cath?
Well, for Varus, I wouldn't put him above Montgomery or Cath at this point. Montgomery actually performed like pretty well in his very short time in the ACL last season. Cath not so much, but I mean, Varus is I'm not sure if he'll be on hug watch, because I think he's going to end up being a first baseman.
Right.
And as we've seen, some team out in the Bay Area did not really want, the White Sox's DH first base. Maybe they can play third hitters for pitchers that went to San Diego. So, yeah. But I mean, after seeing Brian Ramos and Jose Rodriguez and how they performed last year, I am trying to keep a more open mind on the guys that actually did well in the ACL, that weren't, like first round draft pick or or like Yolbert Sanchez, like those kind of guys that come over and like, oh, okay, of course they're supposed to do pretty well. And I mean, Varus did extremely well. He very similar plate discipline line as Brian Ramos, but he just showed a bit more pop, and the BABIP was a bit higher, so he had a 147 WRC plus, which is fantastic. And he's still just 19, so it's not like he's 23 overperformed, and then shocking, he's now in Kannapolis and not doing so well. He's an actual young guy. Just keep an eye out for him. I don't think he's really on a top 30 list anywhere. He might be on Future Sox because they paid more attention to the system than like an MLB pipeline, someone like that.
I mean, Darren, aside from our own top 30 list, right? Yeah.
True.
Like,
yes.
Aside from our own, because we're the smartest. I mean, we know the most. So, but the others, have they caught up to us? Maybe Future Sox did.
No. Yeah.
Or whatever they're called now. Yes. Future. Yeah.
The local sites usually always are on top of these guys more, like a Romy Gonzalez, to be honest. But well, I mean, he shows good pop. He shows good plate discipline. He's probably a first baseman though, so that's kind of full right now. So we'll kind of just see how that goes. But the guys to keep an eye out for on the hitting side are definitely, the Colson Montgomery, West Cath. And Benjamin Bailey should be on the team as well. So hopefully he has a bounce back year, but at this point you can kind of put him in the back of your mind until proven otherwise.
Yeah. And Montgomery Cath, if they both don't move up, say to the dash at some point in the season, that's not necessarily a failure. I mean, presuming they play pretty well, could you see them getting a Ramos treatment, or would there be more cause for them to be pushed a little more than Ramos, given that they're not coming from, a much different background?
No, I don't think they're going to get pushed that much. The good thing, or not a good thing, but one of the consequences of the White Sox moving from drafting mostly college guys, where you have Garrett Crochet, who pitched 3 innings in the minors and then was with the major league team already. Like they're going to take their time with Colson Montgomery and West Cath. I would not be surprised if they were there even through the draft, and once those new guys will start getting signed. because you have to imagine the White Sox would target pitching at this point, since they don't. Yeah. It's not
because they can't find any.
They concentrated on hitting last year. You kind of assumed they would switch, so I wouldn't expect them to be in Winston-Salem, really. Maybe if Brian Ramos is proving that he's just, hitting the crap out of the ball at Winston-Salem, and somebody else is doing the same in Birmingham, and then they just kind of just flows organically up the system, I could see that, especially if it's Colson Montgomery, because he already proved that whatever plate discipline that he got from college actually translated pretty well to the ACL already. 12% walk rate, just under 20% K rate, didn't show much power, which is fine. I don't really put much stock into those stats, but plate discipline numbers are usually the ones that transfer the most. So just to see that he's actually already prepared and already just a guy that's going to give you a professional at bat every time he goes in there is a great thing to see, and you just want to see him put it all together with more pop. But in order to do that, they're probably going to spend more time in one spot. It is helpful that, Winston-Salem's actually, I'm not really sure how far away it is, maybe a couple hours from Kannapolis. So that helps in terms of just kind of traffic time, if he wants to actually get promoted. I know they usually try to, if a guy is in Kannapolis, they usually try to just put him up one more spot. They usually try to avoid Birmingham, since it's kind of a different environment totally. Besides that, it's AA. It's just a completely different environment. But I'd expect them to be in low A for at least 85% of the season.
Again, Darren, not just a pretty face and a colorful host. Garrett Crochet, in fact, 0 minor league innings, unless you count playing at the Schaumburg Boomers Stadium. Minor league innings, in fact, 0. So yes, there are a couple numbers I can throw out. I have no idea most of the numbers you actually do ever speak of, but I do nod my head, and I maybe know usually when to interject a question. And that's a relationship that was very successful for 24 podcasts last year, maybe another 24 this year, if in fact SBNation keeps us on, doesn't cancel us somehow midseason, because there's even a better buddy cop series to play instead of ours. I can't imagine there is one, Darren. So I mean, no. I think we got another 24.
That's definitely not how sequels work.
Yes, the good news, the breaking news is Darren Black back with South Side Sox for at least 5 years, probably lifetime contract, definitely longer than I'll be around. So long, everybody. Darren will take this over one day. Hey, I think we're doing this about every week. We will have limited amount of stuff to talk about in terms of all teams just sort of getting out of the box, mostly only 3 games under their belt. By this time next week, but we'll know exactly how all the dust settled, and maybe get a little injury update and whatnot. Who knows? Johnny Cueto might already be like the number 2 starter in the White Sox system, or in the White Sox rotation. So there's probably a lot of stuff that can still happen. And again, the man was doing it just in his head. I don't know what sort of weird cell phone arrangement he's got. He was writing the minor league update in his head as he's doing the podcast with me. He will be recapping that thrilling 3-1 victory for the Charlotte Knights. Yacksel Rios, efficient as all get out, in saving a very exciting game. Way to go, Charlotte. Keep the run going. Let's not have such a horrible, even Birmingham was so good. And then you gave him, I like how, as you'll read, it's linked in this podcast post, as you'll read, Darren Black just gave them the division championship, because I guess technically that's sort of true, except man, they really just couldn't win that one more game. So even the really good team last year ended up really on a really not good note. So let's hope that's all reversed this year, because it'll make us all feel better about the system, even if that's sort of a mirage. It's just better to win than lose, right?
It's just I haven't seen a lot of winning in the minors.
So we don't know what it is. Yeah. Wait, we're over 500. It's August? What? Hey, try it.
At least it was hard to find a cold cat this year. Usually it's not. Usually it's hard to find the MVP, but so far it's reversed.
Hey, yeah, I like that trend. All right, we'll be talking about it on some sort of weekly basis or whatever all week long. Darren Black exhaustively previewing all 4 affiliates. And at the same time, simultaneously doing a podcast, doing a minor league update, and also like finishing up like Kannapolis and Winston-Salem previews. It's amazing. He doesn't even know the rosters yet, but he's put down like 8,000 words. The man's a miracle worker. That's why we have him at South Side Sox. Again, lifetime contract. Boy, if I keep saying it, it's going to happen. And boy, right now, I think like Vox is already like, they've noted it. So I think I actually stuck you. Sorry, man. Sorry. We're going to wipe all of your messages on Slack, all the words like union and breaks and whatever. They might give you the Starbucks treatment. You're going to have some really weird messages on our Slack because everything will be redacted. Anyway, okay, that's a whole different podcast. We'll talk about that maybe as soon as South Side Sox on the Farm 26. But until next week, enjoy all the delicious stuff that Darren's put out for you. All 4 affiliates previewed, minor league updates, running through the weekend. Julie Brady back with us doing a couple days at the end of the week. I don't have to do any as of right now. I'm just the sub guy, or when Darren says, listen, lifetime contract or not, forget it. Can't do it. Don't want to do it. You take it, buddy. I guess that's when I get to do it, and it'll be really good. So thank you, Darren. I appreciate taking the time out of the busy schedule, writing 3 things all at once, and also talking to me and providing actual insight instead of just a pretty face. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm here always.
All right. Clearly. Well, I will not. When you hear when 7 days from now, when you hear the knock on the door, you know it's me, and let's do it again.
Yep, I will. Hopefully we know the rosters next time.
But yeah, that'll be nice.
Yeah, good guesstimate. So
it's always fun. Okay, take care, everybody. Thank you for listening, reading, watching, whatever. A lot of preview stuff to catch up on. Go do it now. I know you've just being lazy. You thought we'd give you all the answers in this podcast. No, we're not. We can't give you all the answers. There are too many players, too much stuff going on. Darren's taking it all on. So do the man some justice. Read all this stuff, and then leave some comments or petition us with questions, and we'll try to answer them. Thanks, Darren. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll be back in a week.